The Genius Paradox, an imperfect Nobel laureate. The lights gleam across a polished stage in Stockholm. Applause rises like a wave as an unassuming man in glasses walks slowly toward the podium. His name is Harry Markowitz, and on this night, he is crowned a Nobel laureate, the man who reshaped the world of investing with a single elegant idea, modern portfolio theory. He wasn't loud or flashy, but his mind was sharp enough to carve equations into the fabric of financial history. He proved mathematically that you could reduce risk without reducing returns, that diversification wasn't just a rule of thumb, it was a law of logic. His formulas became gospel for Wall Street. His theory, the spine of trillion-dollar portfolios. And yet, when it came time to invest his own retirement savings, Harry Markowitz ignored his own theory. He didn't optimize for risk-adjusted return. He didn't build a beautifully uncorrelated portfolio. He didn't even run the numbers. Instead, he split his money evenly. 50% in stocks, 50% in bonds, no calculations, no algorithms, just balance. When asked why, he didn't defend it with math. He said something most investors would never expect from a Nobel Prize-winning economist. I should have computed the historical covariances of the asset classes and drawn an efficient frontier, but I visualized my grief if the stock market went way down and I was completely in it, or if it went way up and I wasn't in it. So I split my contributions 50-50. There it is. The paradox of genius. A man celebrated for solving investing's greatest puzzle, quietly admitted that fear, not formula, guided his own choices, that emotions, not equations, were the final arbiter of risk. This isn't a story of contradiction. It's a story of emotional intelligence masquerading as simplicity. Markowitz understood something most investors never learn. The best portfolio isn't the most efficient. It's the one you can actually live with. He didn't betray his theory. He honored the deeper truth it revealed, that the market doesn't reward the smartest investor. It rewards the one who stays. In that moment of vulnerability, Markowitz taught a lesson even deeper than his formulas. That the greatest risk isn't volatility, it's regret. And no spreadsheet can protect you from that. This is the genius paradox, and it's just the beginning of the story. The hidden flaw of perfect logic. On paper, it all makes sense. Buy low, sell high, maximize returns, minimize risk. Stay the course. Trust the process. Ignore the noise. But paper doesn't panic when markets crash. Paper doesn't feel envy when friends strike it rich on riskier bets. Paper doesn't lie awake at night wondering if it's already too late. That's the flaw Morgan Housel warns us about. The flaw buried inside perfect logic. The one variable no formula can tame: emotion. Because even if a strategy is mathematically perfect, it's useless the moment it becomes emotionally unbearable. The correct answer to a lot of investing questions is, what works for you? Morgan Housel. That sentence slices through decades of financial dogma, because what should work in theory often breaks under the weight of fear, doubt, and greed. A portfolio designed for maximum efficiency might crumble the first time it drops 40%. A plan based on optimization might become irrelevant the moment your life doesn't go according to plan. Even the smartest investors can't optimize away their own psychology. The truth is, we're not wired to make perfect decisions. We're wired to survive, to avoid pain, seek comfort, and protect what we love. That means sometimes the best decision isn't the right one, and it's the one you can stick with at 2 a.m. when the market's bleeding and the headlines scream collapse. This is the gap between intelligence and behavior, the chasm where most investing plans go to die, not because they were wrong, but because they were unlivable. Logic doesn't care if you're anxious. Markets don't slow down because you're overwhelmed. And spreadsheets never flinch, even when your gut does. That's the hidden flaw Housel exposed, the quiet truth behind every failed plan. That the most dangerous risk isn't volatility, it's breaking your own rules when it hurts the most. So, before chasing perfection, ask yourself, can you live with it when it's imperfect? Can you stay steady when the storm hits? Because the plan that works on paper is worthless if it falls apart in your hands. Emotion beats logic in the real world. And investing is always done in the real world. When rationality backfires, the human cost. They followed the rules, did everything right. Read the books, run the numbers, trust the data. They built the perfect portfolio, diversified, optimized, back-tested, and still, they lost everything they couldn't afford to lose. Morgan Housel tells the story of a man who retired at the top of the market. He'd saved for decades, invested consistently, followed every principle of disciplined, rational planning. But when 2008 hit, his portfolio collapsed. And so did he. He didn't lose it all financially, but emotionally? He broke. His perfect plan said to stay in the market, but his nervous system was screaming to run. He didn't sell because he was stupid. He sold because he was scared. Because every headline felt like a siren, every red number looked like a threat, and every dollar lost felt like a piece of his life unraveling. The math said, ride it out. But the math wasn't living in his body. The math wasn't watching his wife cry at the kitchen table, or staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering if retirement was just a cruel mirage. So he sold. And when the market recovered, he stayed out. Not because he was greedy, but because he was traumatized. And by the time he came back, he was years behind. Time he could never recover. Housel calls this rationality backfiring, because a strategy that ignores emotion might work in theory, but in real life, it breaks under pressure. Every financial decision is a bet on how you'll respond under stress, and most people overestimate their emotional resilience. Morgan Housel. You can see it on their faces. People who tried to be perfectly rational, who shamed themselves for not holding on, who blamed themselves for cracking under pressure. They don't just lose money, they lose confidence, they lose sleep, they lose years to regret. And here's the most brutal part. Most of them weren't wrong. They just weren't emotionally ready to be that right. You can't spread your way out of fear. You can't simulate the sound of silence after a massive loss. You can't optimize your way through anxiety, shame, or panic. Because investing isn't a math test. It's a trust fall with your future self. That's the real cost of ignoring emotional practicality. Not just dollars lost, but belief shattered. Not just bad timing, but lifelong trauma around money. These aren't just cautionary tales. They're warnings carved in human pain. Because when rationality ignores humanity, it doesn't make us stronger. It breaks us quietly and leaves us alone in the aftermath. The power of good enough. Markowitz's emotional wisdom. Harry Markowitz could have done what everyone expected. He could have followed the very theory that won him a Nobel Prize, optimized every asset allocation, run the covariance matrix, drawn the efficient frontier with surgical precision. But when it came to investing his own money, he did something shockingly ordinary, He chose good enough. 50% in stocks, 50% in bonds. No equations, no back tests, no genius-level calculations. I visualized my grief if the stock market went way down and I was completely in it, or if it went way up and I wasn't in it. So I split my contributions 50-50. Harry Markowitz. That wasn't a weakness. That was wisdom. He didn't trust the math blindly. He trusted his emotional reality, what he could actually live with when things got hard, because he knew that the smartest plan means nothing if it breaks you emotionally. This was a man who could have constructed the most complex portfolio on earth, but he didn't, because he understood a deeper truth. The best portfolio isn't the most optimized, it's the one you'll never abandon. In a world obsessed with winning, with chasing alpha, with beating the market and proving superiority, Markowitz did something radical. He let go. That takes more strength than clinging to complexity, more humility than chasing perfection, because good enough is a choice only the emotionally intelligent can make. Morgan Housel puts it simply: the most important part of every plan is planning on your plan, not going according to plan. Markowitz planned for his own fear, planned for market crashes, emotional reactions, sleepless nights. He didn't try to conquer his psychology, he made peace with it. And that's what most people miss. They think investing is about maximizing every decimal. But the truth is, it's about minimizing the odds that you'll panic and abandon ship. Good enough doesn't mean careless. It means sustainable. It means steady, boring, durable. It means you get to stay in the game long enough to let compounding do its quiet magic. Markowitz's decision wasn't a compromise. It was a masterclass in self-awareness, in humility, knowing that winning with money isn't about brilliance, it's about behavior. He knew his limits, and he respected them. In doing so, he showed the world that the real genius isn't in what you can calculate, it's in what you can consistently live with. The power of good enough isn't settling, it's surviving, and survival is what wealth is really built on. The moment of clarity, accepting imperfection. It didn't happen under spotlights, not on a stage, not in front of cameras or economists praising his genius. It happened in quiet honesty, a conversation, a reflection. A Nobel laureate admitting something most experts never dare say out loud. Harry Markowitz, mathematical giant, father of modern portfolio theory, looked at his own finances and made peace with something messy, emotional, deeply human. He didn't chase the optimal portfolio, didn't pretend to be above the same fears and doubts the rest of us carry. Instead, he sat with them, looked them in the eye, and chose peace over precision. I visualized my grief, he said. Not his regret over missing returns, his grief. That single word, grief, was his moment of clarity. Because grief lives in the body. Grief isn't theoretical, it's real. It keeps you up at night, it haunts decisions, it lingers in silence. Markowitz realized no model could erase that. No theory could outsmart the human experience of fear and loss, and instead of fighting it, he accepted it. That was his liberation, not from risk, but from the burden of perfection, from the illusion that brilliance could shield him from the emotional storms of investing, from the pressure to live up to his own intellectual legacy, from the quiet terror of doing everything right and still feeling wrong. Choosing 50-50 wasn't lazy. It was courageous. It was a Nobel laureate saying, "I'm not above this. I feel what everyone else feels. And I choose what I can live with, not what looks perfect on a chart." In that moment, he stopped performing for the theory and started living for the human behind it. That's not failure, that's freedom, because perfection demands control. But peace, real peace, comes from release. From saying, this is good enough, this is sustainable, this is mine. And with that came a kind of resilience no formula could ever guarantee. The kind that comes from knowing your strategy won't crumble when fear visits again, because it was built with fear in mind, not in denial of it. Harry Markowitz, a man who wrote the equations that built Wall Street, found clarity in stepping away from them, and in doing so, he became something even rarer than a genius. He became emotionally free. Your critical choice, rational or reasonable. This is your moment, not a moment of strategy, but of honesty. You can chase perfection, build a portfolio that looks flawless on paper, optimize every allocation, fine-tune every risk exposure, live by numbers alone. But what happens when the market crashes? When your heart races at 2 a.m. and you're watching your life savings shrink in red digits? When every fibre of your being screams, "Get out!" even though the spreadsheet says, "Stay in"? That's the cost of being purely rational. A plan that works mathematically but breaks emotionally. Now here's your other choice. The reasonable path. Not perfect, not optimized, not brilliant, but livable, peaceful, emotionally durable. It's the strategy that says, I know I'll feel fear, and I've planned for it. I'm not here to beat the market. I'm here to stay in it. Reasoning doesn't mean giving up. It means staying sane. It means choosing stability over stress, balance over burnout, long-term calm over short-term panic. And the truth is, sustainability always wins. Morgan Housel said it best. A strategy that works well on paper but makes you sleep with one eye open is a bad strategy. The best strategy is the one you'll stick with. This is your fork in the road. On one side, complexity, performance pressure, emotional exhaustion. On the other, simplicity, peace of mind, financial health that lasts. One path looks impressive. The other one feels right. Only one of them will keep you in the game long enough to win. Because this isn't just about money. It's about your nervous system, your relationships, your nights of sleep, your ability to breathe easy when things go sideways. So ask yourself honestly, do you want to look smart or do you want to feel free? This isn't a test of intelligence, it's a test of self-awareness, rational or reasonable. Pick the one that lets you stay, not just survive, but live. A new definition of smart investing. We've been taught that smart investing is about precision, that it's cold, calculated, optimized to the decimal. But Morgan Housel rewrites that completely. Smart isn't what looks good on a spreadsheet. It's what keeps you steady when the ground shakes. The real genius isn't in chasing every last % of return. It's in building something you won't abandon when fear shows up at your door. Do not aim to be coldly rational when making financial decisions. Aim to be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it for the long run. Morgan Housel. That's the new definition of smart investing. Not perfect, but possible. Not flawless, but sustainable. It's the wisdom to say, I don't need the best plan. I need the one I'll never quit, because the real compounding doesn't happen in numbers. It happens in behavior, in patience, in consistency, in peace of mind that lets you stay. So if this message hit home, if you're done chasing perfection and ready to build something real, comment below. Reasonable beats rational. Let that be your commitment, your declaration, your quiet revolution. Because this isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of a smarter, calmer, more human way to build wealth. And what's coming next? We'll challenge everything else you've been told about money. Stay close. Something powerful is waiting.